right, well, thanks so much, everybody, for coming. My name is Peter Garber. I was the developer of the project, and we've got the program. It's pretty simple. I'm going to talk a little bit. Secretary Gill, the mayor, and my partners, the Taylors, are going to finish up. We have a couple of units on this floor that you can tour, and there's the model unit on the second floor, so make sure to check it out. We've got plenty of things. So I wanted to start out by just thanking a bunch of people, and I'm sure I'm going to forget people. It's always the hazard, but hopefully Dr. Taylor, my partner, will remember who I forget. Ross will, and say them. So first of all, I'd like to thank my wife Julie and my son Toby right over here for putting up with me every day.
Yay!
Yeah. I'd like to thank our residents. We're currently about 60% leased. We have 65 apartments here. Are any of the residents here? Yeah, all right, thank you. Thanks so much for coming. So I'd like to thank my partners, Ross and Bruce Taylor, and also Jared Spahn, who's the builder. And of course, I'd like to thank Jared is the builder, and that you can see all around us the fabulous job that Old Town Construction did. I'd like to thank Glenn Charlo. I don't know if Glenn made it yet. Glenn was my original partner on the project, who helped me bring the resources to buy the building and get it entitled, and then the Taylors joined the project as we started construction. I mentioned contractor. In terms of the design team, Charles Alexander, the back there by the TV. Charles was led the creative genius behind the project. And we have the structural engineer, Carney Engineering. I think Josh is here. Henry Adams is the MEP. CMR is the civil. And Scott Hewitt, landscape architect, is here. And Heath Design did the interiors. Obviously it takes a big team to do this. And we had, on this project, pound for pound, we possibly had more lawyers than any other project in Baltimore. So we have a whole team of lawyers. Mark Keener's here from Gallagher, Villiers & Jones. Rosenberg, Martin, and Greenberg helped us with the zoning. I saw Caroline, Stanley RSVP, that I haven't seen him. And Steve Gavarder and Ron Spahn also helped out on the legal side, thanks to them. The Columbia Bank provided the debt financing, and Columbia National Finance, Josh, who walked in as I started, helped us secure that debt. So appreciate all those efforts. And then Snake Hill, a couple of our neighbors. Actually, first of all, Homewood Federal Savings, and I saw Sandy and one of her colleagues here. Not sure if Michelle made it, but there's a two-story bank building next to us that put up with an awful lot of disruption over the last year and a half. They were very patient. They allowed us to use part of their parking lot, which is precious real estate to them, to be able to erect the building. So we really appreciate their patience. Our neighbors immediately to the north, Snake Hill Tavern, is an awesome place if you haven't been there. These couple guys repositioned it about a year and a half ago, and they're doing really well. And I'm sure that's going to become a major hangout for the residents here. And also, in fact, one of the bartenders is a resident here, which is pretty cool. And I'd like to thank the Southeast CDC, which is right down the street, especially Amanda Smith and Chris Ryer. Thanks so much for all of your efforts. We had to do a little fine-tuning on the zoning of the property to be able to build this building, and they were really instrumental in doing that. Couldn't have done it without them. And then in terms of the current, so that's all leading up to now, and then currently operating the building for us is WPM, and Shonda is here leading the charge. I don't know where Shonda is, but maybe she's downstairs doing something right here. Thank you, Shonda. So they're doing everything to keep this operating and doing a great job. So I've been, working on this project actually on and off for a little over 5 years. And actually, Ben Walsh is here. Is Ben still here? Yeah. So Ben, I don't know your whole resume, but Ben has a game company. They do electronic gaming and software development. And a friend of mine, Jim Wheeler, some of you may know from Air St. Gross, introduced me to Ben about five and a half years ago. And that's when, frankly, so I came over here, and he was working with a gentleman who owned this building across the street, the old Boys and Girls Club, and everything else he could tie up. Anyhow, started working on it, and things fell apart, and then a few years later came back. So it's been, but kind of got on my radar that what a great site this is. You can see the view The proximity to Patterson Park. Just talked to Mark Keener saying it's really the central park of Baltimore. It's a great park. And we are the only, I would arguably say, Class A apartments within striking distance of that park. We've got great, all the cool stuff happening in Highland Town, from the Creative Alliance right down the street. There's Margaret, to Di Pasquale's, who made the hors d'oeuvres for tonight, and everything in between. Of course, we've got Canton right here. We have 20,000 jobs at Hopkins, a mile that way, 5,000 jobs at Bayview, that mile that way, Care First, 1 mile that way. And we actually have residents here from all those places. We have residents, we have a school teacher living here, which is pretty cool. We have people with a variety, Under Armour, T. Rowe Price, and then some small tech companies, which is also pretty neat. So it's also been great just to be able to do a project that I think is helping move Highland Town in the right direction, helping reinforce what's already taken place before us. And I think it's encouraged others to do things. There's Mimi is here, or was here, Mimi, who opened the SIA CrossFit gym right across the street. And she's got big plans there to build that out with other cool things like Olympic weightlifting. It's been really satisfying to get the project built. We're very excited about it. So I wanted to also announce one thing. We have a small retail space, about 800 square feet, facing Eastern Avenue. And with the help of Canada Development, we just signed a lease. Gerald Cole is a gentleman waving at me, and very excited to announce his store is going to be called Off the Rocks, and it's going to be a kind of boutique wine and beer shop. And I think it'll be a great addition to the neighborhood. It's something that if you want a nice bottle of wine in this neighborhood, I think you have to go pretty far south into Canton, maybe to the can company to get one. So we think that'll really fill a need in the neighborhood, and we're very excited to have that leased. Now I was going to introduce our first guest speaker, Mike Gill. And Mike and I are remembering we met some years ago at an event that Betsy Juronic put on, probably about 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, and have stayed friends since then. And I ran into an issue. One of the things, besides the zoning, that created the most brain damage about getting this project done was there used to be several utility poles along the north edge of the property where there was high voltage power, cable, and phone. And so we had to figure out how to get all that underground in public right-of-way and get all those players to play in the sandbox together. And I'm a planner, you can ask my wife. And so we planned way in advance to get this done and gave everybody, all those players, lots of notice. And it got down to a couple of junctures. I actually had to call Secretary Gill twice for 2 of those. You didn't
call him back first time.
I did. I'm sure I did.
You did. Took you a couple hours. But suddenly, those, you can imagine who those players were. I won't name any names, but on those polls, all of a sudden my calls were being returned once Mike called them. So that was very helpful. And I know Mike has a little bit of history in the neighborhood, so welcome Secretary Mike Gill.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm thinking, how much more do you need? You've got the doggy walking park on the backside. Got a place to go get the wine. Got the great park over here. I think what we got to do, Peter, is the marketing strategy ought to be to focus on dogs.
Yes. Just the dogs.
Focus on the dogs and tell them to bring people. I think it'll work. I think it'll work. No, but Peter, to you and Julie and Toby and all the partners, because it's like we talk about economic development all the time. It's a team sport. Everything's a team sport. And when you do have people together like this, and Bill and Colin and the mayor and everybody wanting to make something happen, it happens. The little bit Peter made a comment about knowing a little bit about the neighborhood. I didn't grow up in this neighborhood, but I was a baseball player, and I spent probably a handful of summers, 2 in particular, right over off of Linwood Avenue. There's hardly anybody in here old enough to remember Linwood and baseball and Highland Lanes, which was our baseball team. That's where our home field was. So I was like the kid from Towson who had to figure out how to get down to Linwood Avenue for all my games. But it gave me the opportunity to know Highland Town. And then I knew the Hausners. I knew Steve George. Steve George was married to Frances Hausner's one daughter, and and back in those days, back in the days of the peak of Hausner's, I mean, there were about 3 restaurants. You could count on one hand. You could count on the Prime Rib, and you could count on Hausner's, and maybe there were 2 others, and that was it. And now just you need everybody's fingers in this room. But Peter, what I love about this project is I started thinking about just what it takes to be a great community. It takes great living space. You gotta have great living space. You've got to have to have great amenities that are associated with it. We have great amenities that are building up all over the place. You have to have great office space, and it's expanding throughout all the city. So you start to add it all up, and you create an ecosystem to be great. So for you and your partners, I'm excited about Highland Haus. Love the name Highland Haus. I think it works so perfectly. Matter of fact, if I were still playing baseball, 14, 16 baseball, we would come to you and ask you to be our sponsor. Because I felt like we were always looking for a new sponsor. But we were really good. We'd have brought you a lot of credibility. But again, congratulations, thank you, and from our vantage point, I think this is just another one of those great pins on the map in Baltimore that will take us to places where we aspire to be. So thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. And I actually just mentioned Charles Alexander, our architect, came up with a name. They give him credit for that. I know the property managers really liked it. He said, "What do you think?" They said, "I like that it's not the address. So many projects, let's call it like 3232. But anyhow, so going back to those telephone poles I mentioned earlier, we hit another glitch. We had to get where this is going. We had to get we had to put conduits in the street. And the street's owned by the city. So of course we had to get umpteen agencies to sign off. And before doing that, our engineers had to go, a lot of meetings and approvals, and that was all cool. It was all on the schedule. And they said, it's going to take 4 weeks to get this signed. I'm like, you need 10 people to sign it. What's the big deal? So it's going to take 4 weeks. Okay. So 4 weeks in, where are we? Well, there's 2 left. And folks at BDC were trying to help. And then they came back and said, well, there's 2 people left to sign off. We got the final sign-off person. Before that, there's the bridge section. I was like, the bridge section? There's not a bridge within a mile of here. I said, well, Mr. Smith, and I said, well, can you tell him we need this done? Because we couldn't, we were going to stop our construction because we couldn't get so close to the power lines. And he said, well, Mr. Smith just really does not like to be rushed. So the mayor was not the mayor at that point. She was, but you may recall, this was like June of 2016. There was the primary, I believe, was in April.
Yes.
So she was the Democratic nominee. She was not the mayor, but I was close to her then as I am now. I reached out, and again, reaching out to Secretary Gill, somehow the next day the bridge guy signed off. So thank you, Mayor, for your help. And welcome. Thanks for coming to Highland.
Well, let me just say how excited I am about this project, and it led to some other things I want you to know. But this represents about a $10 million investment in Highland Town, and it's really exciting because if you look out the window and you see the view, you know that you're in a great part of the city, and a great part of the city is important to all of us. But what we recognize is that this is an economic engine that will continue to drive Highland Town. And I want to say this, that phone call was very interesting. And when he said their bridge, I said bridge, because he was telling me where it's located. I said, are you kidding? Hausner's? Everybody knows where Hausner's is. I don't know about a bridge. So the same story that he shared with you. And I said, a bridge guy? And so I made a phone call. And I said, just move it. There's no need. There's no bridge. Just move it. And it did get moved. But what was interesting, what I want you to know as a result of that, Pete Hammond had already joined my team very early. And you talked to me also about the whole process of, as it relates to getting permits and how long it takes to go through a permitting process. And because of that, Peter, we want you to know, before we even walked into the office, I said to Pete, we got to shorten this process. This makes no sense. We want to make opportunities available to people in our city to do development, and we want to make it easier. So now that process is online, and it is a much easier process. But let me just say, I'm excited. I'm really excited for you. I'm excited for this investment. I'm excited for your family because I know how long this has taken. And I can't imagine how many sleepless nights that you may have gotten as a result of this project. But you know, when Peter decides that he wants to do something, he wants to do it. And he sticks in there, he hangs in there, and he gets it done. And I also want to give a shout out to the Southeast Community Organization, because I remember the days of Joe Neely and all of the work that's been done. You continue to do great work. And so I say to all of you who are here that you're a part of something great. And we're going to continue to move our city forward. We know we have challenges, but I can tell you there's not a challenge that we can't meet. And I tell folks that every day I wake up smiling because I want this job. I love this job. I enjoy this job. And what I do know is that every challenge that this city needs to take care of, that we will do that. Everything doesn't happen overnight, and as you well know with this project, but things can change. And so again, thank you for taking time to really be a part of something great, and I want to thank your partners for hanging in there as well, and realizing that we can move forward as a city. And as our young lady who runs Live Baltimore said, don't let them fool you. People are moving to the city left and right. This is a great city, and it'll be greater for projects like this. Thank you.
Thank you,
We
Mayor.
acknowledge Colin too.
Sure. Collins Harbor was very helpful along the way, as well as Bill Cole next door.
Bill always.
Yeah. I got something else to play about Collins. But thanks. So,
Get in line.
yeah, yeah, right. So, Ross, Bruce,
Yeah.
like to say a few words?
Good evening. I'm Ross Taylor. My father, Bruce Taylor. We're partners in this project. We joined a little bit later in the game. Glenn, Charlo, and Peter were kind to do the heavy lifting to get us through the rezoning and the challenges that come with that. Josh Stone, who's hiding in the back with Columbia National and the financing, gave us a call one day and said, you know, I have this project that's just down the street from your project 1212 by Duburn's Arena that I think you'd be very interested in. I said, okay, what is it? He's like, well, it's the old Hausner's. Like, okay, I know that. He's like, well, Charles Alexander's the architect. She's like, okay, well, he built 1212. He's like, and Jared Spahn's the GC. It's like, oh, well, he builds everything for us, and he's been a longtime family friend, and his father's our attorney, and oh, it's a project that you're very familiar with. Like, okay, this is perfect, and this is what the investment's going to cost, and this is what it is. Like, well, that's exactly what we had just sell, so this is perfect, and the timing couldn't have been better. And looking at this project and looking at the area and knowing how Baltimore is and knowing what Baltimore will be, we really looked at it with, you know, just for a minute and just knew that this was going to be a great project. And standing here today in, as we talked of why is this an amenity, it could be the nicest unit in the building, it actually, for that reason, it's the amenity. And we're standing in this phenomenal Sky Lounge with a phenomenal view of the skyline and the harbor and Silo Point and Under Armour and everything that you can see about this great city from here. Some of the other amenities, the gym, the dog walk, the proximity to the park, all these wonderful things that make this a great space. Peter did a phenomenal job of going through the list of thank yous and I think hit just about everybody. I think from us, the biggest thank you was to Peter. For all of his tireless hard work and constant stick-to-itiveness, I guess would be the best way to say it, to make sure that every light pole was moved and everything was on time and moving forward to get us open on time and to get us leasing and to get us to where we are with in just a few short months to be at 65% leased, which is phenomenal. But it speaks one to the project, but truthfully it speaks to the neighborhood and to the area. And in just during construction, driving down every week for our construction meetings, seeing for lease signs that are now, you know, that have been there for a long time, that are being turned over into a gym and a fitness place and into an ice cream parlor down the street, and these changes that are happening every day, and looking and thinking of, you know, this building is sort of a catalyst, and hoping that, knowing that the area is going to continue to grow, and this area is going to continue to be, you know, to become a really nice livable area for residents of Baltimore.
Awesome.
So I'm Bruce Taylor, and my claim to fame is Ross's dad, along with a couple other children. And like Peter, I want to thank my wife Ellen, who's put up with me for many years and helped us to achieve this project. Ross missed in the long line of amenities the dogs that are coming to tell our owners to come here. There's also a dog wash in addition to the dog walk. So we're pet friendly here, and I suppose we wouldn't mind if you had a cat. But like Ross, I wanted to acknowledge Peter, who really has lived and breathed this project, as he acknowledged to you all in just a little way, for about 5 years now. And we came in the tail, and he made it smooth sailing for us. And the Columbia Bank, working with Columbia National Finance, has helped us, Jacob Davis, to be able to finance this project with our partners, and we're pleased for that. And we look forward, when we build a building like this, which is a little bit different from some other owners, we build it because we want to own it as a long-term investment for ourselves in our own portfolio. So we're here as owners and operators with the WPM to manage it for us for the long haul. And so we put into the building some things that people wouldn't necessarily do if they're going to just lease it up and flip it in the first year, because then, you know, all the people who don't like the noise of their neighbor next door banging on the wall to tell them to turn the TV down or whatever, you know, they move out in the second year. Well, we put into each of the apartment buildings that we've built extra sound insulation to make the units more comfortable for people, and so that they can coexist easily and enjoy their residency here. So we're here for the long haul. We appreciate all the help that the City of Baltimore has given us, and some that we're still yet to ask for.
And you'll
we appreciate being in an enterprise zone where we can get some tax credits to help with making a building like this a little bit nicer than it might otherwise be. And I wanted to, again, as I said, recognize Peter with a little token of our appreciation, with a little small gift. I wrapped it up just to get it here securely, but this is a framed, you can if you like. It's a framed newspaper article from the Baltimore Sun of a couple of months ago, saying that Highland Town is now back on track and on fire. Okay, so Highland Town wakes up and gets cooking.